tried telling you at the end of last week as the weekend approached, there are no such things as sleepy Saturdays in college football in 2025. It is College Football Tailgate. I'm Dan Watkins. John McKechnie is here. John, at one minute, you're having a nice little peaceful Saturday afternoon watching some just crazy Big 12 ACC action on Saturday. You got the Cyhawk game, and then all of a sudden, there's that freight train. This is not the same old South Florida, to quote Alex Golish, as the Bulls go into the swamp and pull off one of the upsets of the season so far. Florida, a 17.5-point favorite at home. They lose outright, man. Week 2, it delivered. I know there wasn't as many marquee matchups as week 1, but that was a fun day on Saturday.
Yeah, and like if you're Florida, there's been so much made about how difficult their schedule is. It's a gauntlet. It's the inverse of last season's, but you have so many tough matchups here. One that they were not really talking about so much was USF. They kind of figured that was going to be, one of those ones that you can put in Sharpie with a W next to it. That there's another win for Billy there to get things started. But man, USF was not playing along with that one. They had their own ideas, and I mean Billy Napier and co. just Florida, they are so obviously a talented team, but they just don't seem to be particularly well coached, well organized, what have you. I mean, obviously, the spit incident was ridiculous and everything.
Why is
like
that becoming a thing? We have two spitting heads. We spit in 3 nights.
As a society, we can't let that become a thing. So shame on you, Jalen Carter, and shame on you, guy on Florida. But beyond that, just huge credit to USF. I think that they are looking legit. I mean, I kind of want to get your thoughts and how much were you watching this game, and at what point were you oh, it's still really close, and we're into the fourth quarter, and what was going on in Waddy World over there?
Yeah, so we talked about this when we did our Predict the Headline segment on last week's preview show for week 2. Look, I thought that USF would go in there and give Florida some struggles and some fits in that game. I thought Florida would ultimately pull that one off. So I always had that. I was always flipping back and forth with that one. There were a couple other games on. I was really locked into the Border War game, which was a lot of fun. We'll get to Mizzou in a little bit here because Bo Perbula looks awesome. But back to Florida. Yeah, man. I mean, you turn that on late and it's just okay. I mean, they're going to get this stop here that they need, right, and get the ball back. I mean, they get the ball with 3 minutes left to go. They're up 1. And the play calling there was just really puzzling. They called 2 pass plays. Meanwhile, Jaden Baugh's ripping off over 5 yards per carry the entire day on that one. They put the ball in DJ Lagway's hands and have him throw. Really puzzling there. They kill the clock, give the ball back to USF, commit 2 stupid penalties. There was a bad defensive pass interference play or call there that the refs picked up on. And then you have the spitting incident giving USF 30 free yards as they have to drive down the field. And then, we got another Grammatica, by the way. Nico Grammatica, kicking that game-winning field goal, which ended up just being a total chip shot. But I don't know. I got some questions about Billy Napier and what's going on down there. The fans obviously are starting to call for his head, which is just so funny because you brought this up last week that there was talk of running the table with Florida in that schedule. And this thing is about to crank up into overdrive. One of the reasons why I liked USF was that this was a potential trap spot. They have to go to Baton Rouge. Florida has no time to lick their wounds. This thing cranks up immediately here, and Billy Napier's got a lot of work cut out for him.
Absolutely. They needed to have this win. As weird as it is to say, against USF, this is a must win, but it's you got to bank all the wins that you can before this SEC slate really gets rocking here. And you got to go to Death Valley you got to take on LSU. It's a brutal way to kind of come off of a loss like that. But maybe they'll be kind of snapped into reality here a little bit after this past Saturday and be ready to go. But man, that's just such a huge missed opportunity, a whiff. And if you're a Florida fan, you just never want to be that any big program. You just don't want to be the team that gets upset because everybody remembers it forever. So that's a tough one. Although we'll get to a little bit more in the Monday Cope segment. But I do have some thoughts as to what the Florida fan brain is thinking right now.
Yeah, so we'll save the fan perspective here coming up in a little bit. We'll do Monday Cope, Monday Smoke as well. A couple of fan bases should be pounding their chest as they head into week 3 here. But I do want to kind of do like a little rapid fire and just kind of take a little takeaway and just remind people of what happened this past week, because there's a lot to unpack here. We got to talk about Arizona State in a minute. Clemson, they can't be feeling good right now, even though they pulled out the win. The border war was awesome. So a lot to talk about here when it comes to wrapping up week 2. But yeah, one final thing on Florida, though. I don't know how they fixed this on the field from a standpoint. I mean, other than just like dialing it in, because they just seemed really undisciplined. We've mentioned the spitting incident, over 100 yards in penalties. Play calling is a little suspect right now. And but I do want to make sure we give all the credit to USF, though, as well, because they went in there, they took that game at the end, and they won it. They pulled it out. And I think I saw just like one of those absurd stats. It was like Florida's first in-state loss to a team that's not named Miami or Florida State since like 1959 or something like that. So, I mean, not that there's that many like programs to choose from that have the ability to go in and beat Florida in the swamp from that state if you're taking out Miami and Florida State. But just great stuff from Alex Golish, who continues to just give SEC schools fits at USF there. So, do you have any other final notes on Florida when it comes to like the game before we get to the fan stuff later, or do you want to keep moving on?
Keep moving on. Just one more fun fact on Alex Golish. Went to his Wikipedia. Born in Moscow.
Really?
Really?
Interesting. Uh-oh.
So
could be some sort
now
of
I got my eye
there.
on him a little bit closer, but
Definitely. And Miami should have their eye on him as well, because the lines makers kind of doing it again. We got a 16.5 hanging up there for the U. It was at 18.5. It reopened at 16.5 there as Miami's favorite at home. Could USF do it again? Now that would be a story. And probably be the story of September if they go down to Coral Gables and do what they just did up in Gainesville. But anyways, we'll talk about week 3 at another time. Let's keep moving on here. Saturday night, John. Mississippi State 24, Arizona State 20. Number 12 goes down on the road. Those damn cowbells. Sam Levitt's going to be hearing those things. He's going to be waking up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night. I mean, I'm like waking up in a cold sweat because I forgot what that stadium is like when that place is buzzing. That's like another level there with those cowbells. But Sam Levitt, just an absolutely rough night. He seemed rattled right from the jump. 10 of 22, just 82 yards passing for Levitt. 2 picks, including that crucial one that ended the game. Under pressure pretty much throughout the entire night, it felt like. Only could throw the ball to Jordan Tyson, who had like 68 of those 82 receiving yards for the ASU wide receivers. But man, like, I got some concerns about the Sun Devils and Kenny Dillingham's squad right now.
well, I mean it's just a huge win for Miss State, but I'll circle back on that. But I'm surprised that Arizona State was so rattled by the environment, because there was some footage from out in Tempe this week when they were practicing. They had 2 like student managers ringing a cowbell, so I thought that would have like emulated enough noise to where they would have been
that
totally.
Didn't get it done.
Apparently not. It seemed like that it didn't quite go that way, but that's an Arizona State team that I think that we were both very optimistic about them being able to keep things on the rails, because you do have Sam Levitt back, you have Jordan Tyson back, and Dillingham running the show. So it's like you can get over the loss of Cam Scattaboo and just kind of go about it a different way. But I guess maybe we didn't explore the alternate outcome for them at all, where it's like, what if things do, like the Scattaboo loss matters a lot more than we think, or like what if it's not just so automatic between Levitt and Tyson all season? What does it end up looking like here for this Arizona State team? And I think another thing is, Miss State, I know that they were kind of like narrow favorites against Southern Miss on the road to like start the season, like a very kind of like an anonymous start to their season. Had a horrible year last year. Blake Shapen gets hurt in September, and it's just kind of like, all right, well, this is a wash. But Shapen, I think he's a promising player, like at the college level at least. He's just kind of had some injury troubles. Played at Baylor a while ago, but I feel like there is something to him, and I think he fits really nicely in this offense. And I mean, I think Miss State, just the way that they got kind of like pillaged in the transfer portal, like you lose guys like Mario Craver and I think like the Kevin Coleman as well, and it's like you still keep it going. Like I just give Miss State and their coaching staff a huge amount of credit for getting that one done when I don't think anyone was really on Miss State going into last weekend.
Yeah, Jeff Lebby gets his signature win, that's for sure, down there in Starkville. But if you look at the box score for this game, it kind of tells a different story. I mean, ASU, they outrushed Mississippi State 251 to 66 in this game. They outpossessed them 38 to 22. Yet this game was 17-0 Mississippi State before you could blink here. And I just want to go over the drive chart for the Sun Devils in the first half, John. This is ridiculous. Punt, 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 interception, turnover on downs, field goal to end the half. 17-3 at halftime, just brutal. Arizona State's defense allows 3 touchdowns of 45-plus yards in this one. They got to figure things out on both offense and defense here because Texas State comes in next week, and that game could get out of hand too. And then not to mention, they got to take on Baylor's offense in a couple weeks as well. So Arizona State has a lot to work on the offensive side of the ball here. They got to start scoring and figure some things out as they still navigate this post-Camp Scatterboo world.
Exactly. So, I still think that it's all there for them. Like they can do it. And again, like I just want to put it out there that maybe Miss State isn't the doormat that people thought, but at the same time, like Arizona State, with the expectations, with everything, they have to feel miserable coming out of that game. They got to get this thing turned back around in a hurry because something like this happening, it just kind of portends like, oh gosh, like when they get to the Big 12 play with the way that some of these Big 12 games have gone so far, it's like, oh man, like almost anyone can pick each other off in that conference. So it's definitely going to be like a danger zone every single week once we get into a Big 12 play for them.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep moving on. All right, we got to talk about this Michigan-Oklahoma game, John, because a lot of people on our TikTok, at CFB Tailgate, by the way, give us a follow over there. We're coming after you for your prediction of the headline that Bryce Underwood was going to arrive here this past week. Didn't quite go that way. Oklahoma 24, Michigan 13. Bryce Underwood 9 of 24. Just 142 yards. Looked very uncomfortable in that one. So you got to give all the credit to Brent Venables and his defensive game plan that he came up with for Saturday night.
Yeah, here's the L. I'm holding it. Here you go, everybody. Like
little smash mouth.
Yep. A nice little 9 for 24 from Bryce Underwood. I mean, yeah, not a great look from me. Credit to Oklahoma, and I think that a lot of people that were bullish on the Sooners going into that game kind of felt like Brett Venables was going to have a plan to really make things difficult. Kind of playing on Heisman level mode for when it comes to Bryce Underwood and trying to solve that defense, especially in a hostile environment like Norman. So. Yeah, that's a huge dub for Oklahoma. I think they really kind of needed that to be on their way to hitting those 8 or 9 wins that I think most Oklahoma fans felt was the line at which they would be at least satisfied with Venables this season. So, yeah, huge stuff from Oklahoma. We'll get to Michigan a little bit later too, as far as like how they're all feeling. But I do think ultimately, in the grand scheme, is Bryce Underwood's second game. He struggles against a really good team and a really good defense in a hostile environment. Like, no reason to like really like overreact to it, but it's certainly it's a reminder that this is a hard game. This is a hard game, especially if you're a freshman, no matter how high your recruiting rating was.
Yeah, so props to that Oklahoma defense. They were excellent. Yes, they did allow that 75-yard touchdown run to Justice Haynes, but other than that one play, they really bottled him up. Just besides that one carry, he just had 18 carries for 50 yards. That's less than 3 yards per carry. So shout out to the Sooners defense. But I think we got to give John Mateer his flowers here too for this one. He had a really good night. 270 passing yards, 74 yards on the ground. Has a great night. He's probably one of the front runners to win the Heisman right now through 2 weeks. But I think Oklahoma has to figure out this running back situation to help him because I don't think they can rely on John Mateer to do that every single week once they get to SEC play.
No, you don't want him like just being your leading rusher in addition to being your quarterback. So and I feel like a program like Oklahoma, sort of like Georgia a little bit, where it's like you're known for just being a running back factory. where are the running backs? Why are we so ineffective at running the football right now? So, they obviously lost Gavin Sawchuk to Florida State and everything, but I don't know. There should be a little bit more pop coming from this group of running backs, and I don't know what the fix is necessarily. Maybe they'll just have to hope that this offensive line kind of continues to gel and is able to just kind of open lanes for whomever. But either way, going to need to be able to run that ball more consistently, like you said.
So I mentioned our TikTok page. That's at CFB Tailgate. If you could drop us a follow on there. We have a lot of fun over there. The comment section popping off. As usual, people still replying to our Mike Gundy Oregon video, and we'll get to that game in a little bit. But you can find us on Twitter at CFB Tailgate 25. And by the way, guys, if you could do us a huge favor and subscribe on YouTube, if you watch the full show at College Football Tailgate, tell a friend as we try to grow this thing. You can also find us on Spotify or Apple if you prefer the podcast version. We are at College Football Tailgate on both of those platforms. And then also you can follow us personally if you want to and get more of our individual thoughts. I'm at Dan Watkins Radio. He's at Johns_tailgate on Twitter. So if you just drop us a follow, a like, rate, review, subscribe, would mean so much as we continue to try to build this thing throughout the season and help you guys stay in the know with college football. All right, let's get to what I think was the game of the week for week 2. Baylor takes down SMU in double overtime. John, credit to the Bears and Dave Aranda's team here. Yes, they get the win. They didn't lead at all in this one until we got to overtime. Sawyer Robinson looks awesome. Another 400-yard game through the air, 4 more touchdowns, no picks. But, man, I come out of that one, and I just have big-time concerns about this Baylor defense going forward here, especially once we get to Big 12 play. SMU, I'm just still scratching my head. What happened? This was our 2-unit play as a show. Laying 2.5 with them, and their kicker just basically crapped his pants. That's really what happened down the stretch there. They're up 10 with less than 10 to go, and a very frustrating L for us on our betting card this past weekend. Yeah,
I mean, we were feeling great about that one until pretty late on, and then Baylor just keeps chipping away, and all of a sudden, we're into overtime, and it's like, oh no, this is bad news Bears here. So. Yeah, really brutal from SMU to kind of let this one slip through their fingers in this particular fashion, especially when they just kind of felt like they had them, kind of where they wanted them for a good chunk of this game. SMU, they scored a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but then you let in a couple more poorly timed ones. So, yeah, that was really a tough L from SMU, but I think ultimately that was a very state of Texas football game. Just not a lot of defense. Incredible offense, a lot of fun, but it's like, what is happening?
Yeah, 48-45 in double overtime. SMU, I mean, yes, it was a choke, but at the same time, John, you can't expect to win many football games when you allow over 600 yards of total offense at your defense. So tough look. 2 defenses that just got absolutely gashed on Saturday. It was a lot of fun to watch, but unfortunately, we just come out on the losing end.
We're on to next week. How do you feel about SMU after this, though?
Not great. I feel like once we see them take on after what we saw from NC State and Virginia over the weekend, I think some of these ACC offenses are going to be able to put up some points there. So, yeah, Rhett Lashley, while they can run the ball, I don't know. That defense, they got a lot to overhaul there. They're not going to see as many quarterbacks that are as good as Robinson this past week, but I got some concerns about that defense, too, here going forward if they want to compete in the ACC.
Yeah, that NC State UVA game, sneaky awesome. That was a great little opener to the day. That was a lot of fun.
Just the duality of man between that and what was going on in the Cyhawk game at the same time if you had the multiple TVs going on Saturday. That is for sure. All right, let's keep moving. Ole Miss, they get their revenge, right? Lane and co., the Rebs, they avenged that loss from last year that ultimately kept them out of the playoff. Ole Miss pulls off the 30-23 win on the road in Lexington against Kentucky. They overcome a couple of early Austin Simmons interceptions, and then it just kind of felt like Ole Miss just had control of this game in the second half. But all the questions right now here going forward, John, are on Simmons' ankle. He got rolled up on, couldn't put much weight on that leg. He was helped off the field. But then Lane Kiffin, I think he goes on the Ole Miss broadcast right at the end there and says that he could have come back in if they truly needed him. And Simmons was spotted running off the field, or at least walking, pretty well under his own power there. So looks like they dodged a major bullet there. But how do you feel about Ole Miss right now going forward?
Well, they just had to get in there and get it done. I think, we talked about Kentucky just being this weird team from a spread perspective this year, because everyone's going to kind of have this take on fading them pretty heavily. And I don't know. Like I think everybody was on Ole Miss to cover that number. Everyone was like, that is preposterously low.
And it kept coming down too, which was interesting.
Exactly. So, Kentucky just, I think, is going to be one of those teams that has to live in the mud this season. I think it's like the results are going to be there. I think if they get to 5 wins, that they'll be feeling pretty good about, or not feeling pretty good, but I think that's like an upper range of outcomes for this team. Ole Miss just, again, they just had to go in there, get it done, kind of exercise the demons of last year's game that really kind of ultimately cost them. Yeah, so just get in, get out, and that's how it is. I mean, Kentucky kind of famously does this, especially at home. I mean, Georgia hasn't had a clean win at Lexington in quite some time. It's always kind of like a one possession nail biter type of game up there in Lexington. So sneaky tough place to play for just kind of a lunch pail hard hat type of program. But Ole Miss, a little more razzle-dazzle with it. They got it done. That's all that matters for them. Survive in advance.
Yeah, absolutely. No sleepy Saturdays, as we've kept saying here. But moving on, one of the more impressive wins of this weekend, Illinois just ran away from Duke in the second half. 45-19, our final down there in Durham. John, this was a 1-point game at halftime, and then I thought Illinois just absolutely took control. They outscored Duke in the second half 31-6. Altmaier, I thought, was really good on Saturday. Goes 22 of 31, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, all I can say right now is, here come the Illini, right? The hype on this team is going to start building when you got that big-time showdown with Indiana coming up in a couple of weeks.
Exactly. So this is a game that we had circled for a little while now. And like you said, really close game through the first half. So, what did this close at? Illinois minus 2.5. So, I mean, it was, kind of trending to be right in line with what the bookmakers thought it was going to be. And then Illinois just found this whole other gear. I will say, you kind of mentioned it with this Illinois team, that they haven't been able to run the ball particularly well, that under 3 yards per carry. I know that's not sack yardage adjusted, but not like an unbelievable performance on a per carry basis from them. So that's still something that I'm worried about, as far as their trenches go. But on the other side, gave up a decent amount of empty calorie yards to Darian Mensah, who threw for 334. But ultimately we're kind of able to keep a lid on this Duke team and on this Duke offense on the road. I think that was just an impressive game from them. And again, coin flip game at halftime, and you go in and you just completely take control in the second half. That's great stuff for Illinois. I think that that's a quality opponent that they beat in Duke here. So credit to Burt and company. And yeah, I already can't wait for that Illinois-Indiana game.
Yeah, I am a little interested, though, and we'll talk about this more on Thursday when we preview Week 3. Could they have a potential trappy spot coming up this weekend? They have Western Michigan before, and I think they're 3 touchdown favorites. I haven't looked at the line here in the last 12 hours, but they're a big favorite. They got the Indiana game coming up Week 4 as they start Big Ten play. Could be a potential look-ahead spot there for the Illini. That's something I'm going to be...
It's up to 27.5.
27.5. So if that thing crosses 28, that might be a little bit of an interesting spot there to maybe back Western Michigan. But anyways, moving on, got to talk about that Missouri game that I told you I was locked in on. Border War delivered again. Bo Perbula, man, what a day. 30 of 39, 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, completes passes to 9 different receivers as Mizzou comes away with the 42-31 win. John, looking at that one and watching that one, I know it says that this game was kind of close, and I know Kansas had the lead in the fourth quarter, but man, this game, it just felt like a ticking time bomb for the Jayhawks to eventually lose control here. Missouri outgained Kansas 595 to 251. They had 28 first downs compared to just 13 for the Jayhawks. Time of possession, they doubled them. It was like 40 to 20, and they averaged over 5 yards per carry, man. Like, this Missouri offense is ready to go. They are going to be able to put up points. Their defense has looked pretty good. Jalen Daniels made some plays, but ultimately, I think there was just some injuries on the defensive side of the ball for the Jayhawks that, like, this thing eventually, like, it was going to tilt and it was going to turn into an avalanche at the end there, and that's what ultimately happened.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it felt like in real time, like the way that this game changed in the favor of Missouri was, almost like whiplash inducing. Like you have Kansas up by a little bit after a really nice like 92-yard touchdown drive from them, but then Mizzou immediately responds. They force a punt, they score a touchdown off of that, and then get an interception to ice the game, and all of a sudden it's an 11-point win for Mizzou there. So that was a game that I kind of went back and forth on throughout the week. I really wanted to give some deference and some respect to Jalen Daniels and everything, but I mean, even against a totally inferior opponent in week one with Missouri, like there was like some warning signs that Bo Pribula had the potential to get nuclear in this game, and that's kind of exactly what happened. And Kansas defense, I think we've kind of noted is maybe going to be something that keeps this team from hitting its ceiling, not necessarily offense. I mean, scoring 31 on the road at Mizzou, I think is, it should be enough to get you at least pretty close. But yeah, ultimately, this Pribula kid, did Penn State keep the wrong guy?
I was just going to ask that because Drew Aller, yes, they won. They shut out FIU, but not too impressive yet for Mr. Aller up there in Happy Valley. We'll see as that schedule starts to crank up if he looks better. But yeah, there's that question has been floating out there on the internet. That's for sure.
I love it. It's a very internet-brained thing to ask, and obviously it's tongue-in-cheek. But hey, I mean, Pribula he's got like some sort of like 80s movie high school bully energy to him, and I don't know, he's kind of rocking out. I like it.
Yeah, and Kevin Coleman was awesome for Mizzou, too, in that one. Missouri looked awesome, and if it wasn't for the penalties where they racked up like 70 penalty yards, this thing could have been very ugly on Saturday afternoon. And as you mentioned, the Kansas defense, they head into the bye here. They got some stuff to clean up before they start conference play, and they take on Rich Rod in West Virginia in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, absolutely they do. So it's weird to have like that week 3 bye, but hopefully they can get some use. I think they have 3 byes this year because they played in week 0.
Right. All right, so let's talk about what happened in Eugene, Oregon on Saturday. Oregon, they took Oklahoma State behind the woodshed and they had their way with them. I don't know how else to put. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe what happened on Saturday afternoon there. The final score, Oregon 69, Oklahoma State 3. Just an absolute beatdown. I mean, Mike Gundy, I don't know. Did he soften the blow with what he said last week by how much Oregon spends on their roster? We talked about how this might give Dan Lanning a little extra motivation to just absolutely bulldoze Oklahoma State. And that's what happened, man. This thing, this might be the ugliest game of the season that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's the type of game that kind of makes you have a referendum on Gundy because he's been, Mr. OK State for us, like, as long as we can really remember. Yeah. So you lose like that, and it kind of shows you just how far behind you are in terms of keeping up with the Joneses. And, like, obviously, it is going to be difficult for a program like OK State to keep up with Nike money. Like, it just is. But at the same time, like, you're that far behind, that's bad. That's like inexcusably bad. You cannot be losing games to that extent. And Vegas knew that it was going to be a blowout too. I mean, they hung the 28.5 out there, and like initially I'm like, oh, you got to give OK State a little bit more respect than that. But then Gundy runs his mouth, and it's like, oh man, Lanning is going to run this thing up, and lo and behold, he did. I think you mentioned like some other times, like maybe against Colorado a couple of years ago, where Lanning didn't particularly appreciate where the narrative was going into that game, and just really kind of made it hurt a little bit for Deion. I think that there was some intentionality with Oregon just kind of flexing its muscle here, and I think landing on a very intentional 69 final score.
Yeah. So speaking of hurting, Manhattan, Kansas has been taken by the Army over the weekend.
Folks.
Army goes in there, they win, 24-21, the final or something like that. John, I don't know really what else to say other than what is wrong with Kansas State, because very puzzling. I mean, is this something that, yes, they've been without Dylan Edwards here since that punt return in week 0. Do they get him back? Does that magically solve their issues that they'll be able to run the ball? Because Avery Johnson, bad pick at the end there. Army was able to pretty much just out-muscle Kansas State, which is not something I was expecting to see.
No. I mean, this is what they were 17.5-point favorites. Kansas State was, and for them to
just like Florida.
That maybe is that the danger number this year, like a Severance. The numbers are scary. So. Yeah, it's hard to say that if there's an exact answer because this is so much less than the sum of their parts. I mean, Avery Johnson, even going into last year, was like a dark horse Heisman guy. And then this year, continued to kind of have that similar buzz and esteem from the public, and it just hasn't really looked nearly that good this year, under 7 yards per pass attempt in this one. And, you can't put it all on him necessarily. Like you said, the bad interception and everything. The defense, you can't just get blown off the ball the way the K-State did. So I mean, this is a team that has warts. They struggled in their week 1 game against, was it North Dakota? I want to say that wasn't great.
They got put through the ringer by North Dakota.
Yeah, and they didn't get beat that badly by Iowa State, but they still lost. A conference game to start the season, and then the bad vibes of the Johnson family just getting in a brawl out there in Dublin. So
I jokingly said I hope they took separate exits from that game. I mean, we didn't see any videos circulating, so I think things are all good there on that front. But I don't know. Vibes are bad right now at Kansas State.
Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. I am a believer in Kleiman, and I think that Avery Johnson is better than this. But it's kind of inexcusable for them to kind of have this offense completely go away just because Edwards has been sidelined with that ankle thing. You got to have some more depth and readiness for next man up type of stuff. So we knew that Army can always theoretically be a tricky team, right? But man, should not be beating you straight up at home. That's a whole different ball game there.
I mean, what a interesting 8 days for Army and the Black Knights. They lose to Tarleton State outright at home week 1, and then they go into Manhattan, Kansas, and kind of impose their will on Kansas State. They held the ball, I think, for close to 40 minutes in that game. So really interesting there for Army. Vibes not great there in Manhattan, Kansas at the moment. So Saturday afternoon, about 12:45, 1 o'clock East Coast time. Some of you might have felt like a big breeze come through, and that was just a collective exhale from Longhorns fans as Texas's offense finally got going. Arch Manning drops a dime there to Longhorn or whatever the kid's name is, the wide receiver. It's escaping me at the moment. Livingstone, there we go. I knew it began with an L. I know there's not somebody named Longhorn on the Longhorns. That would be wild, but
I wouldn't put it. People in Texas will. I'm sure there are a lot of kids named Longhorn out there, but I digress.
Quite possibly, and then maybe he gets a NIL deal from Longhorn Steakhouse. I don't know. Just big brain thinking there for a second.
There you go.
But anyways, Livingstone with that touchdown. Army gets rolling there. They end up winning 38-7 or something like that. I gave out the over 50.5 there as a best bet for us. Texas just basically just turned the engine off in the third quarter. I thought we were going to get there, but unfortunately we didn't. That was another L for us. But yeah, I think Texas fans kind of breathing that sigh of relief, John, just okay. All right, we can score. We can actually put points on the board there. But really, a shaky start there against San Jose State before they finally did turn it on and get firing on all cylinders there.
Yeah, you're sort of it's the scene in The Dark Knight where the Joker just keeps hitting the button, waiting for the explosives to go off, and he's where is it? But yeah, it finally kicked in for a bit, but unfortunately not enough for us to hit the over. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but have you seen the clip that's been circulating around of it's a sideline shot, so you can see Arch's face. He throws it from back towards the Texas end zone and just winces.
Yeah, I did see that.
People are kind of freaking out about that one.
I mean, how could you not be? If the guy with all that hype is like wincing on a throw like that. So something to monitor there for Texas, but it was nice to see that offense.
We talked about it a little bit last week too. We mentioned that when we were breaking down the Ohio State game. It's like, why is he always doing this? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something happened there, and there's something to keep an eye on going forward. But anyways, yeah, big sigh of relief there for Texas fans. And then one more little quick reaction here, John. I think there's just 3 certainties in life that we know: death, taxes, and the under in the Cy-Hawk game, as this game once again just gets totally mucked up. We were both big on the 2 quarterbacks going into that game, thinking that they might be able to get over that 41 and a half. And ultimately, this game just happens a certain way, and there's really head-scratching plays and things that you only see when these 2 teams meet on a football field.
I think I saw a stat. I forget whose record Gronowski broke, but he has the fewest passing yards in Big Ten history through 2 games with at least 35 pass attempts.
Is he over 100 for the season?
I mean, he's definitely not over 200. I know that.
I don't think he's over 150.
Oh man, I thought it at the very least so he could run enough to like kind of make up for it. I really wasn't sold on the passing. Plus Iowa can never really throw it, but yeah, like
127
total.
That's 127.
That's so crazy for 2 games. So yeah, what can you say? Time's a flat circle.
There's nothing to say when it comes to Iowa's offense in passing. There is nothing to say. I mean, we talked about this thing, like things were going to be different. Things were supposed to be different this season for Iowa, and so far through 2 games, they have 127 passing yards. And by the way, they played UAlbany in one of those games. Just absolutely brutal. They set football back every single season, and Iowa State comes out with the win there. But Iowa covered somehow, and the under hits yet again, 18-3 to the under since 2004.
I do. I'm not going to apologize for my losing picks on this show usually, but I will apologize for saying that we could get over on the 41 in the Cy-Hawk game. That was irresponsible of me.
We'll remember that for next year. That's for sure. We will not be touching that game. All right. It's time to put some fan bases on the couch. Monday Cope, Monday Smoke. I know you like to start in the misery, John, and really dive in there. So we talked about Florida. Do you want to start with Florida? We might as well, since we already talked about them a little bit.
Yeah.
Florida loses. They're a 17.5-point favorite at home. They end up falling to Southern Florida 18-16, and now that schedule just ramps up, man. Take us inside the psyche of the Gator fan base.
For Florida's Monday Cope, I think it's it's a spin zone.
Okay.
Actually, it's not embarrassing that we lost. USF is really good, it turns out. Now they are ranked now, so there is a bit of credence to that notion. But yeah, if you're Florida, you just have to say like, oh no, South Florida's actually good, and everything's gonna be fine. We lost to a really quality opponent at home. Lots of teams lose to South Florida at home. Totally, schools that pay them a bunch of money to come and usually just take the check and take a beating while they're at it. Other than that, you got your whole SEC season ahead of you. If you're Florida, you can really make some hay that way. But oh man, I think Florida's they're in a special part of circle of hell right now, fan wise, and it's tough and. Your Twitter algorithm gets so like sensitive and like clued in on stuff, so it like got the sense that I enjoyed the result of that USF game, and I've just been getting peppered with USF tweets left and right, and I've really enjoyed the timeline as a result of that.
Yeah, I think all I can say is Miami fans, don't start talking too much until this game is like comfortably in hand, because
yep.
Like Golish said after that win on Saturday, this is not the same USF team. People are pretty much like putting them in as a shoo-in to be the G5 team right now. If they keep rolling, I mean, look out. Like they have another tough non-con game with Miami coming up here. But I'm just like looking at like, man, if they beat Miami too, whew, man, that is something. That is an unbelievable start and will be one of the for early storylines of this college football season.
No doubt. I mean. Yeah, it'd probably be the story of September to knock off those 2 teams, especially with how highly regarded both of them were. We were talking about last week when the week 2 AP poll came out that this was the first time since like '06 that all of Miami, FSU, and Florida were all ranked in the top 15. So, if USF knocks off two of those in back-to-back weeks, yeah, then I don't even know what we could say at that point. It's just going to be, I don't know, we don't want to count our chickens here, but Miami, take this one seriously.
Absolutely. And speaking of counting your chickens in games that you would think would be in hand, what happened in Clemson, South Carolina? How are Tigers fans feeling right now? Yes, they're 1-1. They got the win, 27-16, but they were down 16-0 at one point in this game. It was a very interesting start there for Clemson, I think, to say the least.
Yeah, I think if you're a Clemson fan, you take the win and you move on. You try not to put too much stock in it. You just kind of come back to the idea that, hey, you just had like this huge game in week one. You lost at home. Like it's going to be hard to like really be back to full bore. You would have liked to see them kind of do what they did to App State after the Georgia game last year, where it's like that there's some bloodletting going on. This looks like the Mel Gibson hatchet scene in the Patriot type of thing, but that obviously wasn't the case this Saturday against Troy. But yeah, I think you're just like, all right, like let's just flush these first 2 weeks of the season. Hopefully, get things on track. But this is a huge game coming up for them, and hopefully, I think if you're a Clemson fan, you're just thinking like we didn't want to show too much. We just kind of wanted to get in, get out, and get the win against Troy, and get ready for this game against Georgia Tech. Because if you were to try to spin it as like Clemson was really giving it 100% on Saturday, that's very concerning.
Yeah, absolutely. And that line for the Georgia Tech game on Saturday, I believe, is down to 4.5 now at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be an interesting one. We will definitely be previewing that on Thursday's show. All right, who else is on the couch this week?
Let's go to Michigan. If I'm a Michigan fan, obviously disappointed. That was a huge spot for them, but lots of teams would lose that in that particular setup. Your true freshman quarterback on the road at a place like Norman. It still doesn't hurt the conference record, so like that all is still intact. And you did kind of like OU didn't completely shred you offensively either, so the defense kind of held up a decent bit. Justice Haynes looked good again, so there's still some positive takeaways, even if like the big headline, of course, is Bryce Underwood underperforming in that game. No touchdowns, no interceptions, and I think under 100 yards passing. So I mean, it was not a good game from him, but now he kind of gets like this learning experience, this sort of baptism by fire that again ultimately doesn't hurt their Big Ten record. So there's worse kind of learning curves to go through than I think what happened on Saturday night in Norman, and I think that Michigan and Underwood will be better for it.
Yeah, and now Sharon Moore has that 2-game suspension coming up, so Biff Poggi is going to be the head coach, interim head coach of the Wolverines for the next 2 weeks. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. I mean, we talked about how Michigan was more geared for 2026, so I think ultimately things like kind of came back down to balance after that really impressive Week 1 performance for Underwood, which was against New Mexico. Takes that big-time step up in competition there, and things kind of level back out. But I have seen some Michigan fans not too happy with Sharon Moore right now.
I mean that's definitely fair, but you get a little excited for the Biff experience for these next couple of weeks. Who doesn't love Big Poggi?
Absolutely. All right. Anybody else coping on this Monday that we haven't gotten to yet, or do you want to get to smoke?
Oklahoma State. If I'm an Oklahoma State fan, Oh, no, it is actually just as bad as I thought it was. There's no way to spin this one if you're OK State. It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. No answers. It's not like some of these other teams that, maybe you have something you can hang your hat on. That was just an absolute drubbing up there in Oregon over the weekend. All right, Monday Smoke. Who is pounding their chests on this Monday after Week 2?
Couple of O's here. Give me Oklahoma and Oregon both. Kind of the counter side of what we were just talking about with Oklahoma getting that necessary win, like a big win for Brent Venables. Again, gauntlet of a schedule this year, having a really tough non-con game like this one against Michigan, going out there and kind of just imposing their will and getting this thing done. Really impressive stuff from OU. You got to be feeling good. I think that John Mateer is kind of looking like we're getting close to shedding dark horse when you put him in the Heisman conversation, I think like contender or favorite, I think are probably a little bit more befitting of Mateer at this point after these first 2 weeks of the season. Obviously, very early, but if you're OU, you feel awesome right now. And then I think Oregon, same way. It's like, doubt us at your own peril. Talk your yang if you're Mike Gundy, but we're just going to put you in the dirt. Oregon that was like just a vulgar display of power to quote our good friends Pantera. Like, that was just awesome from Oregon. You got to feel good if you're a Duck fan. And then USF, how could you not be? Bulls on parade, dude. Florida messed with the Bulls. They got the
horn. There you
go. Does it smell like 2007 in here to you when Kevin Smith and company had the Bulls up to number 2 in the country that year? Famously, where getting ranked number 2 was like an It Follows level curse. You would always lose the week after you got ranked second in the country that year. But I did some looking on Sports Reference, and they've actually had a couple of double-digit win seasons since then. In 2016 and 2017, I want to say they were right up there with Willie Taggart and with Charlie Strong. So could be looking at it as a season similar like that. It really isn't the same old Bulls. I don't know who's had a better first 2 weeks of the season, all things considered, than USF right now. So even if things come back down to earth a little bit against Miami, this is such an unreal start to the year for them, and kudos to USF.
Absolutely, and they're ranked now. Although I did see, I think one voter actually left them off their ballot, which shame on whoever did that. Did you not watch? Do you not watch? There might be some people that
there are
vote
some voters
in the
that
AP
definitely don't watch.
That don't watch, and that definitely is what happened there in that case, because nobody, I think you're correct in saying that nobody's had a better first 2 weeks to the season than USF, and that could just get it totally out of control. I'll say it again, if they can pull off another upset in Miami this week. All right, so I've mentioned that line for that Miami game. I believe it's 16.5 right now. The Canes are favored at home. We got to do a little betting recap, John, and kind of just take our beating here, which we kind of took a beating over the weekend. A combined 6-9-2 in week 2, down almost 4 units there. Just some absolutely tough ones. We got 2 pushes. That UConn game, that ending was a disaster for us. We had UConn plus 7. They're leading the entire game, and then fall apart and lose by 7 in overtime. JMU, oh man, they're on the goal line as time expires. We almost backdoored that at 14 and said that's a push. And then we mentioned the SMU game as well. That was just absolutely brutal for us. But hey, I'm sure we'll get some bounces in our direction here going forward. So through the season, we are 17-17-2. On our plays, down a little over 2 units there with all the juice being said. Anything you want to talk about from week 2, or do you have any early looks for week 3 that you want to jump on here before the numbers move?
Well, like you said, this Georgia Tech spread, Georgia Tech getting 4.5 at home. I'm worried about Clemson right now. This is spoken by someone that has real American dollars on them to win the national championship from before the season. They look bad, so I feel like Georgia Tech right now getting more than a field goal. I do like that as it stands. I wonder if this line moves any further. And then
what's the latest with Haynes King? He didn't play on Saturday.
Maybe they were just getting him rested and ready for this one.
Maybe I saw Philo play the entire game, but yeah, they're going to need Haynes King, I think, to beat Clemson this weekend.
100%, yeah, like that should go without saying, but I should have said it also. And then
I gotcha.
One that's like a little bit more like down or off the beaten path. South Alabama gave Tulane a pretty good run for its money this past weekend. They are 25.5 point dogs against Auburn. If that one gets any longer, if we're getting to like that 27.5 figure, I might be ready to pounce on South Alabama, just kind of hanging in there enough against Auburn this weekend.
I got one I am going to add for us right now. We talked about Kansas State and their struggles. Short week here on the road in Arizona. Technically, this is not a Big 12 conference game. Not that really matters here, but I think we saw a little too much overreaction with K-State right now. This line reopened at them getting 1.5 against Arizona. I'm going to take K-State on the money line here. I'm going to trust Chris Kleiman to get it done. We got a nice plus 105 on ESPN Bet if you use that book. I believe you can find it at even money on some other spots. I don't think this Arizona team, yes, they have not allowed a touchdown yet through 2 weeks. I think that changes here. Dylan Edwards might be back, it sounds like, as well. Friday night, these Friday night games tend to get weird here, but I have no problem taking the road dog to pull off what would be a very, very small upset for a team that, when this line opened over the summer, K-State was favored by a field goal here. So give me the Wildcats to kind of right the ship a little bit here Friday night in Tucson.
I do like the idea of buying low because, like we were just saying, like public perception of them couldn't be worse right now. So that is probably the time to consider getting back in at, buying low here.
All right. Very good. I think that's going to do it for us, unless, John, do you have anything else that we haven't hit on?
I mentioned it briefly, but the UVA NC State game was a ton of fun, and I think to your kind of, we didn't fully unpack it, but like the ACC might be kind of fun this year, like really fun. Like I love CJ Bailey. I think Chandler Morris looks good on the Virginia side. This guy, number 7, the wide receiver for UVA, Jamal Endrine, used to be at FAU, played at Purdue. He made some baller catches, so like that alone is going to kind of keep me paying attention to UVA just a little bit. And then, of course, Florida State looked totally dominant against, obviously a nobody school.
They
but
were
the ACC,
handing out carries like
maybe
they were
a little bit too quick
trophies.
It was that was crazy. So I was with some Knowles fans over the weekend. They're like, can we put this on? And we're like, no, we're not watching any more of this. This is cruel.
It's over. It's over.
All this
you
to
sicko.
say,
Stop.
he's already dead. All this to say, maybe we undersold how fun the ACC might be this year. All of that.
Very, very good. I like that. We'll definitely be diving into some ACC games this upcoming weekend on Thursday's show. Do us a favor, drop us a follow or subscribe to the channel on YouTube at College Football Tailgate. Same thing with Spotify and Apple for the podcast. And we are at CFB Tailgate on TikTok and CFB Tailgate 25 on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. We will talk to you guys on Thursday with a full preview for Week 3.